Evening and welcome to Woodstock City Council. It is Thursday, July the 11th, 2019, and we'll get right to work today. It's a nice day in July. It's a little humid outside, but those people that are here in council chambers are nicely air conditioned, and those at home, hopefully you're enjoying something with ice. Any disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. Disclosure of new business? Matters arising from the minutes? Then the minutes of June 20th, 2019, our regular meeting.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Schreidenberg that the minutes of the regular meeting of the Woodstock City Council held on June the 20th, 2019 be adopted.
Thank you. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our first delegation tonight, we have Tom Ryerson. I don't see Tom here. Okay. Well, that might come back another time. That was a request for George Street for speed reduction. Our next item on the agenda then is consideration of planning reports. And our first one is for Oxford Road 4. Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approve the application for lands described as Lot 2, Plan 1626 in the City of Woodstock to rezone the subject lands from Special Highway Commercial Zone to Special Highway Commercial Zone C4-51, or Special, to permit the uses of the C4-33 zone and recognize the existing legal non-conforming truck terminal on the property, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before this decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. And a seconder? We'll go with Councillor Schattenberg and Ms. Hatchler.
Thank you. So the first application was received by James and Marjorie Rylands, and it's for lands located at 714-983 Oxford Road 4. And the applicant is proposing to rezone the subject lands from special highway commercial to an amended special highway commercial to recognize the legal non-conforming truck terminal on the subject property. For council's information, the rest of the permitted uses in the C4-33 zone will continue to apply. The applicant at this point in time is looking to recognize the existing use, but also to construct a fuel card lock facility, which is already a permitted use in the existing zone. In addition to that, the applicant is also proposing to expand the parking area, which will include 4 parking spaces for tractor trailers and 52 spaces for the tractors. This came to the building department and planning department's attention as the use is legal non-conforming. However, when they look to expand the use, we considered that it would probably be best if we recognize the use through rezoning it. So generally, the use has been we figure that it's been on that site probably since before it was brought into, well, definitely before it was brought into the city. So it was established sometime when it was in Norwich Township. Generally, when we look at legal non-conforming uses and extending them, the OP policies ask us to consider a number of things, such as is the activity that's taking place, is it hazardous? Is it causing a pollution problem? Has it achieved a certain amount of acceptable compatibility with adjacent uses? Is the long-term continuation in any potential expansion going to detract from the general intent of the official plan? And in all these cases, we would say that the use is compatible with the area, and we have no concerns with the continuation of the use and potential expansion. In light of our review, we would recommend that the application be given favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And now, with council's permission, if it's agreeable with all of you, I see that Mr. Ryerson's arrived. We could proceed to do the delegation if council would permit it, and we'll come back to planning matters after that. That's okay? Okay. Welcome.
So,
come on up.
Late, eh?
Yeah.
I didn't want to appear too eager, so I was like waiting up front. I was hoping I was farther down the agenda.
Welcome.
Thank you. You can hear me all right? Okay, well, my name's Tom Ryerson, and I'm the father of 3 children and the grandfather of 2 boys and a girl. I have lived in the city of Woodstock for 25 years, living in houses on Alice Street, Nelson Street, and for the last 16 years, George Street. I am here this evening with a petition signed by myself and 107 of my neighbors who live on and by George Street. We are petitioning that the maximum speed on George Street be reduced from the current 50 kilometers an hour to a much calmer 40 kilometers per hour. Having a speed reduced by 10 kilometers per hour is very significant, and we as a neighborhood feel this is the key in beginning to make our streets safe again. For those who may not know, George Street runs from Huron Street to Wellington Street with no stop signs in between, which is a distance of 5 city blocks. I have lived on George Street since 2003, but it wasn't until the reconstruction of this roadway in the fall of 2013 that we've all seen a scary increase in speed from the people who use the road. They use it first to avoid slopes on Dundas Street, and secondly, to stop and shop at the beer store located at George and Beale. There doesn't seem to be any specific time of the day that people speed. It's very random, and they come from all age groups and walks of life as well. I've seen company vehicles and all 3 of our Woodstock cab companies tear down George Street. I contacted UPS about one of their drivers, and they assured me that it wouldn't happen again. If I can get their license plate, I call the head office of the offending vehicle. A Woodstock company I contacted denied it was their vehicle speeding, even though I witnessed it. It only takes one speeding car to create a tragedy that could have been prevented. The city of Woodstock conducted a week-long survey using axle sensors in September of 2018. Unfortunately, the sensors were placed on a very short section of George between Kent and Beale, but it still showed that 186 vehicles traveled between 60 and 80 kilometers per hour, while 7 traveled between 70 and 80 kilometers per hour. And 1 was even recorded doing 101, which is really not all that uncommon. This sampling is just the tip of the iceberg, and everyone who signed this petition has had their own experience with vehicles and extreme speed. When I was talking to our seniors who live in Kentwood Towers and Canterbury Towers, many told me of their close calls they've had with cars while crossing the roadway. They cross at 2 different locations to access the bus depot, Foodland, and Dollarama. Statistics show that 14% of our population consists of seniors. However, when it comes to pedestrian fatalities involving vehicles, they represent 60% of those deaths. So our seniors are at serious risk. In 2016, I witnessed my neighbor's cat lose its life to a speeding pickup truck, and this spring I saw a dove struck and killed by a vehicle which was traveling much too fast as the bird dipped across the road. On my block alone live 7 children under the age of 10 whose parents are truly afraid to let them play in their own front yards because of the extreme speeds. They know a child's instinct to chase a ball across the road, and there's no way a speeding car could stop in time to avoid the worst. The parents of these young children were pleased that I was taking this initiative and were eager to support it. We, the residents of George Street, are very aware of the extreme speeds driven on our street, and we ask that Council please support our heartfelt cause to have the maximum speed reduced from 50 kilometers per hour to 40 kilometers per hour for the sake of our residents, cyclists, joggers, seniors, young children, and pets.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Questions of council? Councillor Tate.
Through the chair to the presenter, and I appreciate your concerns. I live on a street, there's no stop sign all the way from Devonshire to Ingersoll Ave. And we got a lot of streets like that, and they race up and down, but it's an enforcement issue. And I can't tell you how many streets we have. I used to live by the school, and it's 40, and they would whip around because there was no stop signs. They come from the high school, come past the primary school, and come straight down my street. Somebody stepped out, they were dead. But and it was 40 kilometers.
Yeah.
So it is an enforcement issue. I understand, and my street's narrow,
Yeah.
so we've got a problem all over. But I honestly think it's an enforcement issue.
It is an enforcement issue, yes. And by getting the speed limit reduced to 40, at least if we can get a speed trap going and people are doing 80, that's twice the speed limit, and they're going to lose some serious demerit points. And that's what we need to get across. Just send a message to people when they're zipping through town, stay away from our neighborhood.
But the problem is you have to have the police to do the speed trap.
Well,
So it is an enforcement
Yep.
issue. And I don't think it'll make a difference if it's 40 or it's 50, because then we'll have the whole city we'd have to make 40, and we still have the same problem.
All right.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Seeing none, thank you very much.
All right.
And I look for a motion. Who would like to make a motion on the delegation? Councillor Lauder?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council refer the request for a reduction in the speed limit on George Street to staff for a report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tate. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll go back to planning applications. So our next application is for 140 and 160 Ferguson Drive. Councillor Tate.
I'll move the motion that Woodstock City Council support the application to amend the county official plan submitted by PICI Investments, Inc. for lands legally described as Part Lot 10, Plan 1613 in the city of Woodstock to redesignate the subject lands from community facility to high-density residential to facilitate the establishment of a residential apartment dwelling house with up to 103 units on the said lands, and further that Woodstock City Council approve in principle the zone change application submitted by PICI Investments, Inc. for lands legally described as Part Lot 10, Plan 1613 in the city of Woodstock to rezone the lands from Community Facility Zone to Special Residential Zone 4 to facilitate the development of a residential apartment dwelling house with up to 103 units on the said lands, and further that any comments received from the public were reviewed and considered before the decision was made in relation to this planning matter.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Fraser. Ms. Haschler, welcome back.
Thank you. So this application, as Councillor Tate pointed out, is for lands located at 140 and 160 Ferguson Drive. We all refer to it probably as the Lighthouse property. The applicant, as council may recall, has been before council on 2 separate occasions. At this point in time, the applicant's proposing an 8-story apartment building on the subject property with a total of 103 units. Back in April, the applicant was proposing 2 8-story apartment buildings with a total of 168 units. And then they came back again in, I believe it was in May, and that was for a 7-story and an 8-story apartment building with 154 units. In each case, council deferred the applications. The first time it was deferred, it was upon the request of the planning department. And the second time was council had asked the applicant to go back and to try to revise the plan to be more in keeping with the R4 zoning provisions. So at this point in time, before I go further, I should point out that there was discussion internally after the public notice had gone out about the number of parking spaces. The applicant was proposing 166 parking spaces in the drawing, but then when we brought it to their attention that in fact they need 167, they revised the drawing. And since then, building department reviewed it again and realized that they need 171 parking spaces. So really we feel that the difference of the 4 spaces is very minor, and that further public notice is not required. We can, if council is supportive of this, we can make the changes to the report, and that'll go to the county council meeting. And then when we come back with the amending bylaw that would be approved in principle tonight, that would have the corrected number going forward. So the applicant has also, I should point out, the applicant has also provided us with a revised shadow study. And seeing as the site now, the apartment building now is being pushed further back, the shadow impact on neighboring properties has decreased significantly. We were supportive of it when the applicant was proposing the 7 and the 8 story, so this should be more appealing to the neighbors, but we also are supportive of this proposal too. The neighbors came out on multiple occasions and indicated to us that they had concerns about parking, traffic, shadowing, trespassing, privacy, and drainage. The applicant has tried to provide a proposal that would address all of these concerns. So the parking is almost meets. The drainage will be addressed through the site plan application process. The trespassing, the neighbors were concerned about trespassing on their properties, and the applicant has now provided an access that'll be from the rear of the property into the city's property for Goth Hall and Fanshawe. And in our opinion, the application is in keeping with the provincial policy statement. It's a proposal that's providing a mix of housing units. It's an efficient use of an underutilized site. It's in keeping with the high-density policies of the official plan, and it's mostly in keeping with the R4 zoning provisions. In light of our review, we would recommend that the application be given favorable consideration.
Thank you. Questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next item on the agenda is application for condominium and exemption from draft plan approval. Councillor Schadenberg? This is for 343 Huron Street.
That Woodstock City Council support the application for draft approval of a proposed condominium submitted by 207267 Ontario Inc. It's file number CD 18-06-8, prepared by Stantec and dated October the 11th, 2018, for lands described as a part lot 1C, Plan 216, part lots 154C and 155C, Plan 293, in the City of Woodstock, municipal address being 343 Huron Street. And further, the Woodstock City Council advised County Council that the city supports the application for exemption from the draft plan of condominium approval process submitted by 2072627 Ontario Inc., prepared by Stantec and dated October the 11th, 2018, for lands described as, again, part lot 1C, Plan 216, part lots 154C and 155C, Plan 293 in the City of Woodstock, as all matters related to the development have been addressed through the site plan approval process and a registered site plan agreement with the City of Woodstock. And further, that any comments received from the public were received and reviewed and considered before the decision was made in reaction to this planning matter.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Fraser. Ms. Hassler.
Thank you. So this application is an application for draft plan of condominium and exemption from draft plan approval, and it's for 343 Huron Street, and it's to make 26 townhouse units separately conveyable. The applicant has indicated that it'll be each townhouse unit, parking and amenity, and their personal amenity space, which would be exclusive to the individual owners, and any of the areas outside of that would be of common ownership. Sorry, I forgot the word. And so that would include visitor parking and the access lanes. And as council may recall, this went through a zone change application in June 2016 to facilitate the development. And since then, the applicant has obtained site plan approval from the city in September 2017. And at this point in time, the townhouses are currently under construction. So as council recalls, the plans of condominium are fairly similar to a draft plan of subdivision. In this case, we are recommending an exemption because they've already gone through the site plan approval process, and either all the conditions have been met or they've been addressed through a site plan agreement. So staff at this point in time are satisfied that the units can be made separately conveyable without any further conditions. Staff are supportive of the application. We think that it's a good use for the site, as it's a redevelopment of again, underutilized lands. It contributes to a mix of housing, as it's townhouses, and it's also in keeping with the medium density policies, and it's in keeping with the R3-27 zone. So in light of that, we'd recommend favorable consideration.
Thank you. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg.
Yeah, through the mayor again to Andrea, our planner. I guess more of clarification than anything else. There was 2 residential lots that were facing Huron Street that were part of the original land. They will not be part of the condominium. They'll still stay as separate properties.
Through the mayor to Councillor Schadenberg, those 2 lots were severed off previously at the start of the whole process.
Thank you. Further questions? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is correspondence, and we have correspondence from Virginia Armstrong regarding the BIA Street Fest for 2019. Councillor Fraser?
That Woodstock City Council refer the request for temporary closure of the streets for the downtown Woodstock BIA's annual Street Fest to the bylaw section of the meeting.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Tate. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carries. And our next correspondence is from Laura Horner regarding Trucking for a Cure. Councillor Lauder?
I'll move that the request for in-kind support for Trucking for a Cure for 20 picnic tables for delivery Friday, September the 20th, 2019, and pick up on Monday, September the 23rd, 2019 be supported.
Councillor Tate. Discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next correspondence is regarding the Lumco resolution for retail cannabis stores. Councillor Schadenberg?
That Woodstock City Council endorsed the resolution regarding retail cannabis stores adopted by the large urban Mayor's Council of Ontario, LUMCO, at its May 24th, 2019 meeting. And further, that Woodstock City Council circulates support of this resolution to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, which is AMO, and the Premier of Ontario, Oxford MP Dave McKenzie, and also Oxford MPP Ernie Hardeman.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg?
I guess maybe as part of this, and we've discussed before, obviously before I was on City Council, sort of regional designations or geographic designations of what's sort of allowed in certain areas, that this LUMCO resolution goes into quite in depth on where it could be suggested that a cannabis retail store may be located. Of course, our City Council had approved at a previous meeting some months ago that the City of Woodstock would endorse the fact that we could opt in to have a cannabis store local. And the Ontario Cannabis Retail is now allowing 11 more in what's called the West Region, which is a very large region. It includes Dufferin, Wellington, all the way down to Lambton, Middlesex, Huron, and all the way up to Grey Bruce. So it's quite a large region. There'll be even 11 more retail stores coming up. So I think it's very important that we support the work that the large urban Mayor's Council of Ontario has already put together on creating some sort of rules and guidelines towards where a cannabis retail store could or should be located in a municipality.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Lauder.
I just wanted to make a comment too that I'm glad that this was brought forward because there were some things that we questioned at the time, and I would love to see some of the things that's in this acknowledged and put into place. So I'm glad, and thanks for bringing it forward to the councillor.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next item on the agenda is Administrative Services, and we have the Statement of Revenue and Expenditures and Capital Expenditures for the period ending June 30th, 2019. Councillor Tate?
I'll make the motion to receive as information.
Thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, from the mayor through to our treasurer, Patrice Hilderly. I'm curious, when we do an event like Jurassic Park, which was a great municipal event, as the Toronto Raptors were trying to win a championship, where in the, they won the championship. They won, you're right, Deb, they won the championship. Where would funding for that under a line for an annual budget come from to help pay for an event like that, which is a one-time only event?
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, typically that would fall under the special events budget that Brad Jansen is responsible for, and there's some additional funds included each year to cover things like that.
Maybe this is more of a question, a second, not a follow-up, a different question to Patrice Hilderly as well, through the mayor. I noticed there's a Woodstock General Hospital grant for $350,000. Is that forever that the City of Woodstock will be giving them a grant, or does that end at some point in time?
Your worship, through to Councillor Schadenberg, a number of years ago, City Council decided that they would contribute $7 million to the hospital for their building program when they were beginning to build the hospital, and I think we're in year 17 of that, so we have approximately 3 more payments to make.
I guess now a question through to our engineer, Harold DeHaan, from the mayor. I noticed that there's a scrap metal and aluminum at the depot. The projected was 13,000 for this year, and 12,100 is already come in as far as revenue goes for that. So there's maybe a bit of a success story happening at the depot on James Street.
Your worship, through the councillor, yeah, actually, we're finding the depot is being used a lot more than it was last year, so we're hoping to see most of the volumes, most of the revenues up this year over what was projected. The number of cars running through there is vastly exceeding what we expected to see.
Further discussion? And if things keep going well at that depot, we might hear for the 2020 budget about more hours for labor. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next item on the agenda is the Civic Center. We have a repair that's needed there. Councillor Fraser?
That Woodstock City Council authorizes the use of up to $24,000 from reserve for capital projects to fund the repair of the plate and frame chiller at the Civic Center.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Lauder. Discussion? Councillor Fraser?
Your worship, through to Mr. Connors, maybe Brian can explain what happened and why we got to spend some extra money.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question. This piece of equipment it's kind of essential in the creating of ice. So without it, we wouldn't be able to make ice at Civic Center. It's 23 years old. When we were putting the Civic Center down, we always go through a full inspection of all our parts to make sure we're in for no surprises, and we were with this piece. So to replace the unit in its entirety would be $150,000. So we think the best course of action is just to fix it and be able to have ice in the Civic Center again.
So this is a repair some parts, but at some point we might have to look at a whole refit.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, we are in the process of looking at that currently, and a report should be coming this year regarding the Civic Center. But this has nothing, like, this is not a piece of that. This is just the repairs for the ice for next year.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. And our next item is the Parks truck. We'll go Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council authorizes the use of $21,000 in additional funds in order to purchase a one-ton truck for the Parks Department, and further that $8,000 be financed from the reserve for equipment replacement and $13,000 be financed from DC, Development Charges, Parks Reserve Fund.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Lauder.
Through the mayor to Mr. Connors, maybe you could just explain why the extra spending. I know you gave a good report on it, but for the public.
Your worship, through to the councillor's question, when I asked the fleet manager what the costing increases were, mostly it was tariffs on the steel and aluminum, and because we go for the lowest price vehicle, this had an effect on all our fleet. But that was what I was told. The jump between what we estimated and what happened the year previous to this year, as far as the costing increase.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Next item, we have human resources and the social media and online communication policy. We'll go with Councillor Tate.
I'll move that Woodstock City Council adopt Human Resources Policy HR 019, acceptable use of social media and online communication.
Thank you, and seconded by Councillor Schadenberg. Discussion? Councillor Lauder?
Maybe we could have someone speak to this as to why this is required.
I see Mr. Dunham in the back, if he would like to come forward.
Didn't know I was going to get to speak tonight.
Welcome.
Thank you. So many municipalities, especially the larger ones, have a policy like this in place just to make sure that we have consistency as far as how we're using the various platforms and for the different people who post. As we get larger, we have multiple people who are posting stuff on social media, and we want to find ways to keep ourselves coordinated and consistent so that we're the messages that we're putting out both adhere to our policies and match across our platforms.
Thank you. Further questions of council? Councillor Schadenberg?
Yeah, through the mayor to Jason. I guess maybe we're more of a comment than anything else. I noticed on July 1st, when the lineup was changing a little bit for the entertainment and whatnot, you were busy on social media updating the roster or whatever would be happening that day or the schedule to try to attract people for an update as to what was going on in Southside Park. And I thought that was very important. And obviously you do a very good job through the social media for the city of Woodstock. But as individual employees for the city of Woodstock, is there a caveat or a sort of a beware thing that would go up as far as just generally somebody who works for the city of Woodstock, let alone somebody who's a city council member, that's more of a visible employee of the city of Woodstock to beware of what gets posted or how it gets posted to social media in general?
Sure. So the big precaution for employees is to make sure that they're not speaking in a way that would imply that they're representing the city unless they're authorized to be posting on behalf of the city. My understanding is that HR has had incidents in the past where someone might post something on a private account that might perhaps look like they're speaking on behalf of the city, and that's what we want to make sure that employees are clear how they can post to avoid having that happen.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, you've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Thank you very much. Our next item on the agenda is the Southwest Oxford Boundary Adjustment Committee report. Councillor Lauder?
I'll move that Woodstock City Council approves the draft boundary adjustment proposal with the Township of Southwest Oxford in principle and authorizes proceeding with the statutory public consultation process.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Tate. Discussion? Councillor Lauder?
Maybe you would like to speak to what we've been going through for this?
Well, what I would say for the people here in the chambers and those at home, of course, Woodstock has experienced a lot of tremendous growth over the past few years, both with our commercial and industrial growth and with those new jobs. We've been attracting a lot of families here to the area. We've been very successful in working on a lot of infill lots and new apartment buildings like we approved here tonight at council, but we also need to look more long term. So one of the things that we've been trying to do over the last few years is secure that new residential land for the future. This area within Southwest Oxford, it is already very close to where all of the services are. So we're hoping that when we go to this public meeting, that everyone will be very receptive to the opportunities for having some new residential development on the west side of the city. Now, even with this, if everything goes through with this boundary adjustment, you won't see houses or apartments being built in that area right away. There's a lot of infrastructure and work that goes into that with our planning department and our engineers and maybe another water tower and all of that good stuff. But there are certain time frames that we deal with within our regulations within the province. So we need to get to work on this right away if we're going to have anything happen for January 1 of 2020. So look forward to that meeting. We haven't ironed out the exact day yet, but we'll be communicating that with the public. It could be the 13th or 14th of August, and we'll also let you know what the location will be. I hope I didn't leave anything out. You've been serving on that committee with me as well, so okay. You've heard the motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carries. And we have no notices of motion or new business, so we're on to bylaws. And who would like the bylaws tonight? Councillor Lauder.
I'll move that the following bylaws begin first and second reading 9314-19, a bylaw to provide for the temporary closing of certain streets, 2019 Street Fest, and 9315-19, a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 8626-10 as amended, ZN 8-19-11, 714983 Oxford Road 4.
And that was seconded by Counselor Schattenberg? Yep. Thank you. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? All those in favor? Carries. Counselor Lauder.
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Schattenberg that the following bylaws be given third and final reading, 9314-19 and 9315-19.
Thank you. You've heard the motion. All those in favor? Carries. Unanimous. And since Counselor Lauder is off to one side by herself tonight, we will start over here.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. At the Art Gallery, there's an opening on Wednesday, July the 17th at 5 p.m. It's the annual juried exhibition, An Element of Life, and this is all free. So if it's a hot day, it's a great place to come because it's nice and cool in there, and it's something that's free, and I'm sure it's interesting for everyone. And just to let everyone know that the city is hosting public information meetings to look at the potential changes to the transportation system. And it's going to be held on at City Council Chambers on July 23rd and 24th from 2 and 6, meetings both days in approximately 1.5 hours. So all those people that are concerned about our buses, please come out and make your opinions noted. Thank you.
Thank you. And for anyone right now with teenagers at home or grandchildren that they know need to get around to some of these great activities, make sure you tell them to get into City Hall and get that special pass for $25, unlimited per month. Councillor Fraser.
I'll pass and just ask everybody to continue to enjoy the summer.
Thank you. Councillor Schattenberg.
More of a comment. On Tuesday morning, I had my kids out at the Piddock Conservation Area, the day use park area, which of course is now free to the community for the City of Woodstock people. Of course, the camping area is still not free. It to be reserve a campsite and whatnot through the Piddock Conservation and Upper Thames River Conservation. But just wanted to know that it's nice, wide open green space. Lots of great place to take your kids out. The event I went to was actually an Upper Thames River Conservation event where you're looking for insects and stuff in the tall trees along Piddock, and went more of an information session, but it really is a great addition to the City of Woodstock to have that day use park area, and there's this bit of a splash pad there and some public bathrooms as well. And I know Brian Connors has worked very hard over a number of years to bring that into the City of Woodstock for a free municipal park. Thanks.
Thank you. And I guess with that, I'd say continue to make sure you look at the city website for all the different things going on in the community, the Facebook page, and make sure you enjoy the summer and stay safe out there. A motion to adjourn? Councillor Schattenberg, second by Councillor Fraser. All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you.